All right, let's talk.
What about all this?
You can leave that. You can't see all that.
Right.
Let's talk amplifiers and tuning, blah, 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 blah. So, first off, tell the truth. That was written in Open E, yes.
Yeah.
And can you tell what happened with Tell the Truth?
Well, it had nothing to do with all things past session, except that we recorded it during that session. But Tell the Truth was just one of many songs that Eric and I wrote. And we had been a day and a night just playing and writing and working on different things and different tunings. One time, so this is when we went through the house and we tried open E, open D, tune into an open C and open G. As many open A, as many open chords as we could. We were breaking strings on all the guitars. Just trying different things, And we were working on with an open E, and I was just banging around on this thing. It was kind of like, it reminded me of a Rolling Stone feel, I mean, that's what it just felt like a Rolling Stones thing, and I was messing with it, some backwards chords, backward changes. And Eric said, "You got it." We had fire roaring in the living room. He said, "You got it. I got to go to bed." He said, "I can't sit up for this," because we'd already been up. I was going like on night 2. And so he said, "I got to go to bed and get some rest, man." I said, "All right." So he went on upstairs and went to bed. And I kept playing this thing. And it came to me, as the sun was coming up. And it was like a new dawn's breaking, across the English countryside. It was just absolutely a beautiful, beautiful, astounding. And I just had I could see these guys sitting there looking so cool while the whole show's passing you by. But you better come to terms with your fellow man soon, because the whole world's shaking. Can't you feel it? A new dawn's breaking. I can see it, It really was. And I was, tell the truth. I'm thinking Otis. I didn't mean to rip off Otis, but
You didn't
Otis had a song called Tell the Truth as well. And but I wasn't thinking about that song. I was just thinking Otis Redding,
You can't copyright a title, so nothing to worry about.
No, well, anyway, I wasn't even thinking about Otis's song.
Sure.
And this whole thing just fell out. It was like a picture. I could see it, And then with the new dawn breaking, I could see that in the mist on the English countryside. It was absolutely beautiful.
So
and I wrote the first two verses and the chorus, and then I was in there still banging away, and then Mrs. Egby, who was that lived in her husband and his brother lived in the gatehouse, But she comes in, she's a cook, and she says, "Would you like some breakfast?" And so I went and I was sit down having tea and breakfast, and Eric came down in a tattered robe, and I said, "Man, I just wrote this great thing last night." And he said, I know, man. I got the third verse." So he wrote the third verse, listening to me singing through the floor, because his bedroom was just above the living room.
We actually did this on the last video.
I remember.
Explain it. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I remember it well, but you asked me about it.
Right, but what I was asking you was about Dwayne. Dwayne had showed you the E tuning.
How to tune the guitar in open E.
Because somebody thought that you had written that in the George Harrison sessions.
No, hell no. I didn't write that before the ad or anything.
And it had nothing to do with your organ playing either, did it?
No. I was messing with acoustic guitars.
Right.
Organ and rock and roll. I didn't write. About the only song I ever wrote on the organ was "Back in My Life Again," and George just off the top, I said, well, why don't you just write one,
Right.
While we were recording, I thought I'd run out of songs, and he said, why don't you just write one? And I did. But that's the only rock and roll song or song I've ever written, really, on an organ,
Right, right.
It's just not a songwriting instrument.
Right.
It's more of a guitar or piano.
And Tell the Truth was originally your first single.
Yeah, that was the first single with the Dominoes. We recorded Tell the Truth and Roll It Over during the All Things Must Pass
And you had them
section.
pull it, right?
Yeah, because it was a Phil Spector production and had that big wall of sound, and we did not want that because it misrepresented the band. It wasn't who we were.
And you were all about pulling the first single, which wouldn't have been Layla, but it would have been your song with
my song.
Your and Eric's, the two of your song.
And then Bell Bottom Blues was a single as well. So before Layla became anything.
That's just amazing. Most people would never have fought that. They would have all right.
Yeah, I figured it was Layla out of the box. It wasn't
Tell the Truth. Tell the Truth was actually your first single.
Yeah, it was actually the first Derek and the Domino single on Polydor.
Right. So any part of this, we're just sort of segueing into this other part, which is about the amps that were played. Somebody said nobody can verify really what was being played. But you do kind of have a feeling that they were the tweed amps.
They were old tweed amps, and so I would imagine, deluxe.
You said
there wasn't any super deluxes or anything because that's the new amps. You see, there was a couple of old 2, 3, 4.
Well, that's what Tom
amps.
Dowd said. He said the same thing.
Yeah, and so I'm sure he was more in tune with what the amps were because that was his.
You weren't really paying attention to the amps, were you?
No, except that I could see them, and I knew they were small.
Right.
Nothing. Everything that we had, you could pick up.
Except the pig nose. You were fond of the pig nose amps.
Well,
right?
the pig nose was that big, so.
And they were sort of brand new on the scene.
Those were the prototypes that the guy invented them, brought back, bought 2 of them and gave them to Eric, and he gave one of them to Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying exactly what Tom Dowd had said, that they were the tweed amps, the old tweed amps they were playing.
There wasn't a Fender Twin or anything like that. With
not
the shiny,
not the black face.
No, shiny face and all that.
Shiny.
No, they were old amps.
Right.
And no powerful amps. We didn't have all the playing that was going was not as loud as my voice is. When the amps were happening. It wasn't. You could sing without a mic. It turned Tom's head around when we came walking through the door carrying, little champ amps, couple of champs and some other little something. Because he was expecting, Marshall Stacks and all that stuff that he had done with Eric years before, but no, it was all about sonic quality. Mm-hmm. That's new. That's just brand new. So that was just given to me. But that was what it was about, and keeping things really compact and simple. The playing and the everything.
Well, do you think that might have been influenced by the band?
The band?
Yeah, the band.
No, I don't think so.
Because they were sort of like that. They weren't,
I don't think so. I don't recall any mention of Robbie Robertson and Levon Helm during our sessions ever. Didn't talk.
But they weren't known for their Marshall stacks.
Garth Hudson was an influence on me as far as the organ goes, and his approach and what he did. He was very melodic stuff, and I don't know if I played any different after I heard Garth Hudson, but I could identify what I was doing. There's certain ways of coloring things, and he did, with some of his sounds and stuff. I never tried to emulate anything. It's just impressionism,
Sure.
What you bring back, what you take away from, seeing somebody when you go out, You don't come home and
Absolutely.
try to be that. It's what they affect, how they affected you. You know.
Right. Well, they made an impression on you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and
So, did you guys play together? You guys in the band? Did you ever?
Levon and those guys.
Yes. You knew.
Oh,
You knew.
when I had my place in Mississippi, I somehow or other wound up doing a show with the band. You know?
All of them?
Yeah, Levon and all of them, everybody.
With Robbie Robertson as well?
Yeah, and they had flying Elvises diving from the sky. It was really
So I
good.
take it things weren't going so well.
It was really good though. No, it was a big festival up north somewhere, you know. Yeah, the flying Elvises. They came in.
Well,
there they are, you know.
I know you were friends with 3 of the 4 of them. Really?
Yeah,
3,
yeah.
4, or 5
Levon, I was good friends with Levon and Rick Danko.
Rick Danko,
you know.
yeah. And you guys worked together, didn't you?
Well, not
You
really.
and Rick
Well,
Danko?
Levon and I did. You know, we were on
Didn't
as
you
a matter of fact, you was on the same album with
Right.
Levon
It was the
played
first
on.
thing we did together.
Yeah, yeah.
All Night
yeah.
All Stars.
All Night All Stars, yeah. And well, that's a long time ago, wasn't it, baby?
Yeah.
You know, not that long. You know, 20 years goes by like that, doesn't it?
God, tell me.
Yeah, and here we are. You know, turn around and here we are. Everything's beautiful.
Yeah, that was fun. But didn't you work with Rick Danko as well?
We played a show together and jammed together at the Bottom Line in New York City, and Ronnie Hawkins was there, and I really just loved him. He was a really good guy. But yeah, Danko was roaring, to say the least. All right, he had a couple of cigarettes going at the same time. I mean, so he had 2 cigarettes going. You know, this is backstage at the Bottom Line, and yeah, Roger Hawkins was there, and he was a nice man, you know. And he gave me a shirt that had the hawk on it, you know, with
Yeah,
a
I
big
remember
hawk.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that shirt? I
had
don't
it
know what
when we-
happened to it. You know,
I think you just wore it out.
probably, you know.
Maybe you gave it to somebody.
Yeah, but Levon, you know, he and I were friends, and you know. He said, "You just hang in there, Bobby. He said, your time will come, you know. Just keep on living.
How can you not? How can you
Stay
not?
alive."
How can you not love Levon? God dang.
Oh, yeah, man. Just stay alive. Your time will come.
He was great. A couple things to mention. You were talking about where your B3 was in the session, in the Layla session.
Yeah, when we were doing everything, the whole album, it was really being aware of had to be quiet. You know, we had to be quiet while we were recording because everything was recorded at such a low volume. You know, we weren't blasting away, and my Leslie was in the broom closet. It was literally in the broom closet with the door closed, and so when I was playing, it was more that I could hear what was coming out under the crack of the door, for the most part, you know, and what was in my headphones. You know, I've got to hear the Leslie itself in order to make it right for me. You know, just because the switch goes this way and that way, that doesn't, you know, or this and that, you know, drawbars this way or that way. I got to hear it to do it. And so I had to have some of it, so it was coming out from under the door. But the piano had a huge, I call it a boat. It was about that tall, and it was cut for the whole of the piano. And so the piano it was muffled as well, you know.
It was underneath something that they had.
They had built a boat. I call it a big boat. It was shaped like the piano.
What was it made out of?
Wood.
Really?
And it was about that tall.
So it covered the
and
piano?
it covered the entire piano.
Top of the piano.
The top of the piano. The entire top of the piano. And
Was the top open?
no. Oh well, yeah, because they took the top itself off. You know,
So it was more like
the lid. They took the lid off, and this thing sat on top of the
So
piano.
what that was it was an acoustics thing, okay? So that it wouldn't be playing out, but it would leave you some acoustic sound in there, in that top. That's what it sounds like.
It was completely covered.
No, but it wasn't being muffled from the top. They put a cover over the top, but it came up over it, did you say?
Yeah, it was a complete thing. It's the shape of the piano.
Not to kill the sound, but you see what I'm saying?
But to keep the sound from going out into the room.
But inside the
and
piano
bleeding
itself,
into the guitars.
inside, underneath in the piano, it wouldn't be killing the sound.
No,
Okay, so that's what I was saying. Acoustically, they probably did. That's pretty cool.
I've
never seen
it kept all the piano sound
inside
that box. This cover.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
And so I mean,
It's
so
like
when
its
you're
own,
playing
its own little sound.
you couldn't get that. You couldn't get it working for
Right,
you.
but it was its own little sound booth in there.
Yeah. Well, the drums were in a carousel. All right, a round carousel, and it had a wall around it like this, a little door in the back, but it was about that tall, and it was soundproof.
Right.
The exact carousel went up and had a lid on top of it. You know, all it didn't have was the dang horses, you know, that goes around and around. But it had a top on it and everything. And the drums were set up in this carousel, the very back of the room, and the bass was in the other side in the very back corner.
And where was the amp?
That's what I mean, the amplifier.
Carl's
and then the guitar amps were up close to the window of the
Studio.
control room.
Right.
And so that's all down here. Jim was at the other end of the building, you see. And so nothing was bleeding into the drums. The drums weren't bleeding into the amps. The piano was not bleeding into the amps, and neither was their organ.
Right.
So everything was real clean, real clean.
But you still had to keep the volume down so that it
and
wouldn't
still
be
kept the volume down.
Sure.
And got the quality of that real quiet recording. It's got the dynamics of loud, just balls to the wall, just loud and on 12, It wasn't that at all.
Right.
It was all about the music and the sound of the guitars, the vocal quality, presenting the songs, really is what it was about.